Welcome. I'm Jay Shear with Jay Shear Business Consulting. We build solid foundations for service-based businesses to grow and scale and achieve the results and success they deserve. And you've joined Business Minds Coffee Chat. You're familiar with the concept of creating a win-win agreement in business, where you create solutions and outcomes that benefit both sides of the buyer-seller relationship. Well, on this episode, we're going to discuss the win-win effect, what that means, how it can be used to drive goals, transform sales teams, relationships, and so much more. Our guest is a father, a serial entrepreneur, a world's leading expert on high-performance sales teams, a podcaster who received more than 2 million downloads in the first year, a Forbes Business Council member, and he lives the philosophy, one heartbeat, one mission, one outcome. He created the sales industry's first privately owned, nationally accredited program, which is used in over 60 trade schools throughout the U.S. Please welcome the founder and CEO of Winject Studios and the host of the Win-Win Effect Show, my friend, Chris Ross. Chris.
What is shaking? The hell of an intro, my man. I love that nice little personal touch to it. I really appreciate that. And thank you again for inviting me on your wonderful show. And I've become a big fan of yours as of late, of immersing myself into your story before when you came on to the Win-Win Effect, and that episode will be launching here soon. And I can't wait for that to come out because that was a phenomenal conversation. And just like that conversation, just like part 2, and hopefully I can make an impact with your listeners and they can do anything they want to do in life and just see that I'm prime example that anything is possible because I'm a crazy mind person, but anything in life is possible. If you have the right thought, directed it into a positive outlet, and you can manifest anything.
Bam, exactly. I love that. And that's one of the things that I tell you what, I just connect with you on a much deeper level. And, consuming your content, being in your sphere and just feeling your energy, man, it's incredible. And so thank you. I'm grateful for you being here. And I can't wait for our audience to learn more about you, to understand your story, who you are, and how you help not only business leaders and executives, but just people in life in general. So this will be a somewhat of a love fest, but man, I just want to get right into it. I really do. So Chris, everyone has a story that matters and a story that's worth telling. So share with us part of your journey that led you to the work that you're doing today. It's an interesting story.
Great question to start off and to give the listeners a little bit more context. I'm from Charleston, South Carolina. I'll do it in more of a nutshell. I was born into a Italian family, and a very close-knit family, as most Italian families are as in a culture. But I grew up in the same crib with my older sister that I had no idea, obviously at that infant age and the toddler age, that she was challenged. Obviously, she was mentally handicapped. From there, and the reason why I'm telling you this, at a very young age, I learned how to make a connection and communicate non-verbally with my older sister. And, she passed away when I was about to turn 16, about a week before. She made it to 19 years old, and she was diagnosed when she was born. The doctors or whatnot told my parents, like, she's not going to make it past 4. Luckily for her, she didn't understand that, right? So from a very young age, I've learned and I've started developing a lot more emotional intelligence. And back in those, I had no idea what that meant, and I didn't know what it meant until later on in life. Fast forward, after she passed away, graduated high school. I didn't really know what I wanted to do in my life, so I chose to go into the military. Little did I know that I was indirectly like running away from my situation. And the situation, I was running away from pain. I didn't face the adversity because I couldn't understand why my family had to fight so hard, what she had to go through. My mom beating cancer, 8 back surgery. She has a morphine pump inside of her body. So she's able to get, obviously injections every month and getting her pump refilled. So she's able to walk around. My dad's working 2 to 3 jobs his whole life, and he's a hard worker. My whole family's hard workers. I have a younger sister. So when my older sister passed away, my dad was there for my mom, of course. And then I was there for my younger sister because that was how I was raised. I was raised to protect my younger sister. So I didn't really work on myself. So I went to the military and, served my country. And I'm so proud that I did, because that's probably one of the best decisions I ever made in my life, because I was exposed to another way of thinking and a lot of different types of cultures from people all around the world. I've traveled so much. Right after 9/11, did 2 Iraqi freedom deployments. Was stationed out there in Bahrain for a little bit, patrolling the Red Sea. I drove special warfare boats and shaking people in and out. I wasn't a SEAL or anything like that. For those, it's just called SWIC. But I drove boats my whole life growing up. I can drive a boat better than I can drive a car. No joke, especially here in England, because they drive on the wrong side of the road. So, so I'm telling you, I was exposed to a lot of leadership, and that was my start, I guess you would say, in my journey in learning the foundation and the core values. When I say honor, courage, commitment, that's used as a punchline for certain people. I live and die by those core values. I've taken those core values and I've made sure that everything that I've ever done in my life, I live and die by those. So went to college afterwards, graduated. I started selling chemicals. That was obviously with fluid technology and titrating oil. I was just really good with sales, but I never understood why I was so good at sales. But obviously, that's where I give you that backstory about my sister. I sort of I can read people really well, and you don't need to tell me. So when I start asking questions in the framework, I had no idea what I was doing back then. I was able to get to the core and the root pretty quickly than most salespeople on the force. Then, of course, after 2008, everything went boop, everything exploded, especially with the fluid technology, and all the plants and manufacturing started shutting down. I was like, what do I do in my life? Right? They gave me a year severance package. The year before, I was the top, but top salesperson in the industry, and in their company, and got rewarded for that. And they gave me a year severance package. I was like, man, what do I do in my life? I was at a golf club and I was playing some golf. Obviously, that's what you do in Charleston. And you play golf, and I was playing some golf, and this young lady walked up to me and we had a conversation. I was playing golf with her husband, and we're having, a couple cocktails and whatnot, a happy hour. And she's like, you would be great in education sales. I said, what the hell is education sales? So don't you just go in and roll? She's like, no, they're like trade schools. I had no idea what a trade school was. So she's like, just come in for an interview. I said, okay, great. So I came in for an interview, and I was like, I really don't want to do this. I don't know anything about college other than, cheating on a test pretty much. But that's where I've learned, I've discovered my purpose in life, and that was serving people, making an impact. I still remember my very first person that I enrolled into a program. I remember her story and the impact that she made on my life. It's kind of like scratched the surface on me kind of discovering that purpose and making an impact with people.
What impact did she make on your life?
She was able to, it was a complete reflection on the effort that I put into that human interaction and that conversation in the sales process, and making sure she was qualified for the program. She was going to do well. She was going to get placed in a job. And I helped her get a GED, because you have to get a GED or a high school diploma to be able to go to a trade school. She watched her graduate. That was amazing. And then I just went from that, watching the instant impact that I made with her. And it changed a lot of different, not just her life, but it changed her family's life. She had 2 young daughters, changed her community. She's a better person, made more money than she's ever made before, because she felt like she had a sense of, that sense of direction in her life. She's working, I think she was working at Taco Bell at the time. So She went from making minimum wage to pretty much around like 40 grand, which isn't a lot of money back then. But it's probably even nothing now, but it doesn't matter. Like I saw that impact. And when I saw that, I went nuts in education. I was enrolling and I just used my natural talents. I've never been the person where I called off a script. One, I'm dyslexic. So me reading off a piece of paper, it's not going to happen. So I learned a different way. I would memorize things and put it in my own way of communicating. And that's how I would deliver the message, because there's one thing you can never fake. That's passion.
True.
I speak with a lot of passion because I'm talking about my life. I'm talking about all the adversity that I ever overcome. Like there's nothing ever going to stop me from being able to get to an outcome. Nothing. I will figure it out because that's how I was raised and that's how I was built. So to kind of answer and giving more context about that, when education became the top recruiter in the nation for 4 years, speaking on stage, meeting great people, then I decided to start rubbing elbows with, investors of those companies and trade school, major corporations. And I started saying like, man, I could do this on my own. Like I'm going to go into entrepreneurship. I remember telling my father this and he was like, you've lost your mind. Because I've gotten, pretty high up, but that was the issue that scared me. I got to a regional director of admissions for, the school and the trade schools, and I was going and traveling. And I was like, I don't want to do this. Like, I want to do more in my life. I've always kind of imagined and dreamed when I was a kid, I would be wealthy one day. Mm-hmm. I just couldn't figure out why. So I kept moving and kept challenging myself. And now when I went in entrepreneurship, I took off. The first year, made a lot of money. I did very well for myself. Very, very blessed. But there's a lot of holes in the infrastructure in the foundation of the business where I didn't really end up with a lot of money. I was a lot of outsourcing, a lot of bills, and a lot of things. I didn't understand the finance game. So I reached out to a couple not mentors, but a couple people that in the industry. They helped me with that. I got more education. And then the next year, I turned myself into a 7-figure earner pretty quickly. And from there, just kept building businesses, kept selling, investing. I just made the right decisions, but it's not from my decisions. It was done by me observing entrepreneurs in the industry and learning what not to do in certain situations, and of course, building a team, the culture. I love what I do because I don't have to do what I do for a living. I get to do what I do for a living. It's an honor to be able to serve people. It's an honor to be able to, when I launched my podcast show, Jay, my catalyst, and I don't know, like 2 million downloads later, I was like, holy crap. Like, I couldn't believe it. Yeah, they show up for me, but they stay because of the guest. Yes. And they stay on the reason and on how I'm able to frame some of my questioning. Because I've interviewed some big names and bigger names that would people that go, yeah, it's a big name, but I don't look at them as a big name or a major influencer or a thought leader. I look at them as another human. I want to get to know that person, and I have a genuine interest in the subject or the guest that I bring onto the show, and that's what the listeners are there to listen to. They're listening for what I'm going to ask them and what I'm going to extract from them for the listeners, and that's why they stay. And of course, I've met some phenomenal people like yourself, and I absolutely love what I do. And if I couldn't do what I do for a living, I don't know if I would want to, live. Like, that's how much I love what I do.
And it is so clear. It comes through in how you speak. It comes through in shining colors in your body language. Every conversation we have, whenever we've had a conversation in the past on video, it's crystal clear, Chris. And I love that. And, many times it takes us trying so many different things to discover what that purpose is, to discover our mission, to figure out what it is that drives us, that gets us so passionate and so excited. And the fact that you have been able to do that, right? That you've latched onto something that allows you to create impact, that allows you to create community, all the lessons that you've learned along this journey, all of that culminating into where you are today. I love that story. And I appreciate you sharing the backstory, because I think that's important to get the context around what you're doing today, who you are, and why you show up the way that you do. That's there. And you shared a lot in that story. And I want to go back for a moment
Sure,
because
absolutely.
there's a few threads there that I'd like to tug
Mm-hmm.
on if you're okay with that.
100%.
And one of those is so you experienced a tremendous amount of pain in dealing with or trying to manage through what you experienced with your older sister.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious, what was the process like for you in managing through that pain and using that pain as a vehicle to push you forward? So just give us a sense of what you had to deal with. Did you get some professional help, some coaching? How did you process it? I mean, you went in the military, and I get the structure and the leadership, but take us through that, if you will.
Um, Back then, or what I had to do to kind of rediscover and put everything into alignment.
A little bit of both. So
Okay.
if you're able to go back, what was
Sure.
the
Yeah.
process that you
Absolutely.
went through, and then how does that lead you to where you are today?
When I was experiencing all these things, even when I would go and visit my older sister, and she was right down the street, she got to an age where my mom couldn't take care of her. Like she was getting bigger, right? So she couldn't physically move her around and do certain things.
Mm-hmm.
There was a coastal center and a facility right down the street from my mom's house. So we would go there every day, pretty much. My mom would go there every day, or I would get off to school, and they had a basketball goal outside. And I got to a certain age, and I know now what I was doing, but back then I didn't want to see my sister in so much pain. And but granted, I was the biggest connection as in that she had, pretty much, other than my parents. I'm not trying to take away from my younger sister. She had a connection as well, on just different ways. But I would even go play basketball outside because I didn't want to spend the time with her, because it was hard for me to watch her like fight to breathe through tubes. It was really traumatic for a young person to kind of have to deal with. So I was, able to kind of sense by non-verbally what she kind of needed from me. So I would put mask on and do what I needed to do to make her feel better. Right. Later on in life, I had to rediscover this because I was raging wars within myself, because I would suppress emotions, and I would just take it and suppress it and not think about it. But the more that you put things on top, that becomes the hard layer, a shell, for you to kind of penetrate your own thing. So I was able to do what I do for a living, and using my emotional intelligence on a tactical side to get what I wanted and get what I needed from certain deals or in business, and reaching a certain level of success. But I can never get to the next level. And what I mean by that, it's kind of like, imagine yourself being able to see everything you've ever wanted out of life, everything. You can see it, but you can't touch it. That's what that felt like for me, trying to break through those layers. And that's what was preventing me was me. I wasn't able to feel vulnerable anymore. I could feel vulnerable and I'd be empathetic with people to feel their emotions, but I wasn't able to do it myself and be 100% aligned. When I did that, I was already, it's easy to give off the illusion that everything's okay with you when you make you're in an 8-figure type of game, right? And Chris got these businesses, he's doing well, he's making an impact with people. But I had to go back in to get to the next level. When I went back in, it came from a panic attack, pretty much. I had no idea what I was going through in my life. I thought I was having a heart attack. And I had a panic attack because it got to the point where I was suppressing so many emotions. I was rehashing a lot of things because I was going through my own journey and trying to shed the layers to get to my true essence of me. And I had this, cultivation of silence, cultivation of self-discovery, and really digging in and leaning into that pain and adversity. Once I did that, it felt like it's like I don't play video games. I haven't done it since I was a kid. But when you're playing a video game, you get to the next level, ding, 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 and something goes on the screen and goes boosh. Now there's nothing preventing me from doing anything. I'm able to do it effortlessly with people because I'm 100% aligned. I don't know the difference from like work and play. I don't know the difference anymore. This is just my life. When people talk a lot, that's one of the biggest things for people now in entrepreneurship. I need work-life balance. No, you don't. You need to figure out how you're able to merge everything together and hit all the human needs that you need and you possess. You like everyone's are different, right? But the main two are love and connection. You have to feel those. And that's what I wasn't doing in my personal life.
That's incredible. And thank you for sharing that, because you brought
Well,
up some points there that are, I know are going to resonate with many out there. And it's certainly one of the areas where you and I connect, and where we connected the first time we had a conversation, because I think it's too easy to put those masks on, and
yes.
whether it's shame, ego, I mean, you name it, fear, we do that. And sometimes it can take a life event to just shake us and give us the perspective to realize that, or the self-awareness to realize that this is how I'm showing up, but it's not congruent with who I am at the core. And once you are able to identify that and start to do the hard work to strip away at that hard armor that you create, or those masks that you've worn, to peel those off and really get to your heart and your soul and be, that word authentic, it's so overused, but
100%.
be you, be you. And who are you? Right. So
Yes.
really, I'm trying to identify who that person is and how I want to show up and how I want to serve. So I'm grateful that you shared that. So thank you.
You're welcome.
So what are some words that you would use to describe yourself?
Vibrant, expressive, compassionate. I'm a very caring person. I've always cared more of someone else's situation and what they're going through rather than my own. And that was part of the problem sometimes, because I would take I was raised this way though. My father's the same way. Like whatever people need and whatever people want, and he might not have all the other things, but what he cherishes in life and what he's, his values is more family and more, that type of stuff. Right. And I'm not saying that I don't, my point I'm trying to make is I was raised with, if you have it, you should be able to share and you should be able to give. And I'm very fortunate, and I'm very blessed individual. I was reading I read a lot of information. I consume so much content. I don't watch mindless entertainment. I used to try to get myself off of work, but I didn't know where to take my energy because I have a high energy. You know what I mean? A lot of energy.
Really?
So yes, right. So like transferring energy, I've always been conscious of how I'm able to transfer energy. But once I learned how to transfer energy into you or whomever I'm speaking to, over it's on stage or human interaction, it doesn't matter. I'm able to see an impact, and good or bad. And once I see that, I'm able to sense using my emotional intelligence. And if I'm making a positive impact on someone, that's going to go right back into me, and I'm recycling my energy. So now it's kind of like taking your phone and you take it off a charge, you're losing battery, aren't you? Your phone's going to die at some point. Well, that's what I do in my life. I'm always plugged in. I'm plugged in. So when I'm talking about being passionate, and if everything aligns and you are in sync with your true self, inner essence, I mean, talking about into the nucleus of who you are as a person, I know exactly who I am. I know exactly, it's not who I want to become. I'm manifesting that. This already happened. It happens here first, then it happens in reality. It's your job to make it happen and manifest that into reality. And that's a lot of times where a lot of people, they might have great ideas, but that idea doesn't do anything, Jay. If you're not willing to put in the work and being like, there's nothing going to stop me. There's nothing in this world ever like is going to own any mind, body, or spirit of me. Nothing. I'm willing to destroy the version of myself to get to where I got to go. Wow. And who I'm destined to be every day. That's hard to say sometimes when you have manifested and you've created so much of I've done a lot of great things. Yes. And I'm so blessed for it. And that's how I'm able to achieve those things, because there's nothing stopping me. Nothing. Only thing is stopping me is me. Yes. And I'm going to challenge your listeners just to kind of, for a second, when was the last time that you looked into the mirror. And I mean looked into them, like in your eyeballs. A lot of people, they can't. A year ago, I wasn't able to do it as much as I'm able to do it now. And I asked myself that one Steve Jobs question. Before he passed away, he said this in I think it was commitment. I don't know what speech it was. Maybe it was a commitment speech, or watched a piece of his content years ago. And it really resonated with me. It stuck with me. It's like, am I about to do what I want to do in my life today, if this is my last day? And I know that's overused sometimes, but that's a question that I ask myself every morning. Am I going to, whatever I got to go do that day, I don't have to do. I do it because I get to do it. It's going to serve a purpose. There's nothing that I do that doesn't serve a purpose. And that's why I struggle with sometimes a lot of things that you have to kind of get done. Well, I don't want to feel like I have to do things ever. It's done by a choice, a decision, and it's not controlled by an outside source, because nothing in life that you ever want to achieve, you don't need anything else. You need to know who you are and how to use your own God gifts. And those are gifts. And everyone has different experiences and different ways of life and wherever they come from. It's literally, we're actually a miracle to be born on this planet. It's like what, 1 billion trillion, is it 1 billion trillion trillion? It's like one, and if to give everyone context behind that, it's 1 and 33 zeros. That's how many chances it is for you to be born on this planet.
Let's talk about winning the lottery. Amazing.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And most people aren't looking at life that way, though, Jay.
No, you're so right. I just, your perspective and way of looking at things it's infectious, man. And that's probably not a great word to use these days in the environment we're living. But
right.
It goes back to that level of energy and the way that you think. And so I want to go back to what you were talking about in terms of manifesting the life that you have today. So walk us through then some of what you do in order to visualize and be able to manifest. So just give us maybe part of what that process looks like, so we can learn and we can implement and apply that in our own lives.
Just like any other successful entrepreneur or any other person in life that was living a fulfilled life, they usually go about doing things a certain way, and they have a routine. I have a routine, and there's no alarm clock needed in my life. No batteries included, nothing. I wake up at 5 a.m. every morning. Every morning. Some days it's at 4:58. Some days it's at 4:44. Before 5 a.m., I am opening my eyes. And that's where it starts. Get a couple glasses of water, and I start my day of the, and this is sort of the thing, when we're talking about the neocortex part of your brain. And for those who maybe don't know science, that don't know how your brain operates, you might want to read a book, because none of us are born with a manual. Okay. So your parts of your brain control certain things. The neocortex part of your brain is the front lobe part of your head, right? That part is asleep. It goes asleep. That's what puts you asleep. It's unconscious and unconscious. Okay. So when you're unconscious, you're sleeping. So when you start to wake up, it's kind of like, remember, you've ever been in a car accident, Jay?
No.
No? Okay. Have you ever been in a situation where it felt like things slow down? Time slows down?
Yes.
That's what it feels like when you're waking up in the morning. Your mind's not all the way functioning properly. And you remember certain things, and you have to, if you're alone enough and you pay attention to your own thoughts, and you're actually understanding how you're feeling and what you're feeling and conscious of that, like my hands are tingling. Why are my hands tingling? Why is this? Like, what am I thinking? You're not there to process the information. You need to slow down time. And maybe with a journal, I brain dump first thing in the morning. I write out my thoughts. I got notepads everywhere in my house, everywhere, everywhere in my house. And I write things down because that's my way of, I have things sinking in. I don't take technology in my room because I don't want to be controlled by external things. So I wake up and I want to be alone on my own thoughts. My first 3 to 4 hours of every day, no technology. And this is where all the ideas come from. My ambitions and the things that I'm setting out to do, and the goals and my dreams. It's never like my dreams. These are the things I'm going to manifest and I'm going to accomplish. There's no losing. There's a win or learn. I'm just going to learn how to make it happen. So if there's something, just one thing that we're blessed with, we're in a world right now that where everything is uncertain. What does uncertainty do for people? It freaks them out. Yeah, it makes them sit back. They're not being proactive, are they? No. They're not being aggressive in their day. I walk out of my bedroom and I walk into my office. It might, of course, right now with COVID, I'm here. I'm not in the office somewhere else, but I'm walking in like I'm walking into a 12-round fight because it's a fight. Entrepreneurship is not what you see on social. It's not real life. This champagne bottles, beautiful women, nice watches, beautiful men, trying to get with the beautiful women or whatever. That's not real life, man. And most people say, I have a business. You have an entity. You don't have a business. Business is structure. Business is foundation. Business is protocol. Business is connections. Like, that's a business. Like, okay, pay taxes. Pay $1 million in taxes. That's what a business is. Like, that's a hell of a goal. Don't say, I want to make $10 million. Say, I want to pay $1 million in taxes this year. Because if you don't, the taxman's going to come. Because one thing they're going to do is they're come get you. But my point I'm trying to make, that's part of my process of kind of getting myself in the right frame of mind to do what I do for a living and how I'm able to get to do what I'm doing for a living. It's the ones that are most prepared in life are the ones who are going to be able to manifest anything they have ever wanted. I'm the most prepared. I'm ready to do whatever I need to do. If something punches me in the face, I'm ready to go after it. I know how to move. I know how to operate. I know how to make the proper adjustments because I've been there before because I put in the work, Jay, just like you, right? So we've put in the work. There's no problem or situation that I can't overcome.
Man, I tell you what, if for all of you that are either watching or listening, I want to put my arms around you and pull you in and make sure that you are listening, actively listening to what Chris is sharing, because man, talk about pouring knowledge and pouring value into you. That's exactly what's happening right here. So listen to the mindset, listen to the way that Chris is communicating what he does, what he's thinking about, how he starts his day, and that there are truly no limits. The only limits that we truly have are the ones that we set for ourselves.
100%.
Right? We put those in place. And when we start to realize that, and we can break those barriers down, and we can do the work that's required by asking ourselves tougher questions, thinking bigger, surrounding ourselves with people like Chris and others who don't let barriers keep them from achieving.
Right.
It's so please listen and take the advice and put that advice into action. So, man, great stuff. You got me all fired up.
Well, I do appreciate the kind words. That does mean a lot. I mean, that's what it tends to happen. But there's, I'm not insinuating there's not off days for me. And I'm going to shine a light on that for the listeners as well, because I know it's easy to hear something like this and be like, yeah, okay, but he's got, this business, he's got this. Well, that comes from, you have to put it, there's off days, man. There's days, Jay, I wake up and I'm like, man, I don't feel like this shit. Excuse my language. I don't feel like this today. Then then you have to figure out and pull back the layers. What is your competitive advantage? And this is something I'm going to get personal. Okay. And it goes personal to myself. When people say this a lot, they say, when I pass over one day, whenever that is, we don't know when that's going to be, you're going to meet your creator, and the creator is going to introduce you to the version of what he thought and what he was envisioning when he obviously created you, right? That's what they say, for whatever you believe in, for people believe out there. Well, here's mine. When I pass over one day, and I hope I live a good life and a blessed life and a prosperous life and everything I ever do, when I do pass over, and I make it to the other side, wherever, if there is whatever that is for people, I'm not going to look my sister in the face, and I don't want to feel like I failed her.
Mm.
Why I say that is because she couldn't walk. She couldn't talk. She couldn't do the things that I get to do. And she's going to look me in the face and say, you did this with your life? I gave you a gift. I gave you a gift. And that's when I make that shift. It happens a lot. There's some days, man, I'll wake up like, man, I don't feel like this. I don't want to do this today. Like, oh my God, I got to deal with this bullshit. I got to deal with this. I got to deal with this. You know, and it's hard. Entrepreneurship is difficult, but it's supposed to be hard. It's supposed to be hard because everyone will do it. Everyone would be a millionaire. Everyone would have whatever they wanted in life. It's supposed to be hard. That's the trick though. You need to feel resistance every day. If it feels like you're having an easy day and I'm living, oh yeah, it sounds sunshine and rainbows, but I need to feel resistance and a challenge because that's what's going to drive me. And I'm going to draw from my competitive advantage and I'm going to overcome.
Wow. Woo. That's on fire, man. Talk about, I've got chills up and down both arms just hearing that story and thinking about your sister and you thinking about that and what she's saying to you. I mean, talk about motivation, talk about impact and purpose and not looking at, wow, waking up every day realizing that this truly is a gift because every moment matters. We don't know what the next moment's going to bring. So what can we do to ensure that each and every moment that we have, each breath that we take in, that we're figuring out how to maximize that, how to squeeze as much juice out of that as we can and create the biggest impact that we can. So tell me, what does, I mentioned this at during the intro, what does one heartbeat, one mission, one outcome, what does that mean to you?
Being 100% aligned and being able to communicate that message to everything I'm working on. I've been around a lot of companies, and one of the things that I was blessed to be able to have an opportunity to do was to walk into companies and they would request for me to come in and do some consulting. Well, obviously not now, this is years before. I will walk into the company and I like to shop companies before they actually know who I am. So the CEO would end up hiring me and we'll have a conversation. I'm like, all right, you got to pay my fee is 50 grand up front. 50 grand up front for me to audit your business. But if I feel like during that process of the first week that I don't think that I'm going to be involved because I need to make sure I'm 100% aligned to the message of what it is and what the company is about, because that's where my core values come from. You have to do it morally and ethically, right? So that's why the win-win effect was so important for me. That was the methodology I developed over the years, because if I'm living an abundant life and there's nothing that's ever going to stop me, and I'm able to communicate that over to someone else, and they're able to see from, I guess, my point of view that they can accomplish this, then great. So I'll walk into a company and I would just observe. What is the secretary doing? What is the temperature in her room? What does it look like? What does it smell like? What's the energy level? Is there energy level? Go walk into the sales team. I mean, what's going on there? I would fake interview. I would go in for an interview and they would sell me, right? And I would just observe everything. Then I'm going to come back with my whole notepad a couple of days. And now I'll walk in with my power suit on a Friday. I'm like, I remember that guy. I'm like, oh yeah. And that all hands meeting. I'm like, this is what I've observed. This is what I see. This is what I believe. And here's my recommendation on what you need to do. Well, that 50K retainer turned into, okay, you can have this back because I don't believe you guys are with it and you're not ready for me. But I learned that through the years, that you have to sometimes ask yourself really difficult questions. Is this company are they having me here to do a job? Are they here for me to make an impact with them? It's going to change everyone's life, because that's what I do for a living. People ask me, like, what do you do for a living? I make everlasting impact with individuals, personal and business. And it's all about collaborating and putting it all together. That's what I do for a living. Would you like to learn how? Why? Like, would you like to learn how I go about doing this? And they'll go, what does that mean? I'm like, it's one heartbeat, one mission, one outcome. That's success overall. But you have to make sure that everyone is beating on that drum and going off that one heartbeat. The heartbeat typically comes from a sales team, whatever people believe, but that's driven by marketing. Marketing is there to assist the sales team in making it easier for them. But that messaging needs to be aligned. Have you ever been around a company where marketing doesn't talk well to sales and sales doesn't talk about marketing?
A few times.
Okay. That's one of the biggest pervasive issues I see with companies, that their departments aren't communicating. Everyone in a company, I'm talking about from the janitor all the way to the freaking CEO. When I ask a CEO and I'm asking a business executives, what's the mission statement? What are you trying to accomplish? What's going on here? And they're not able to communicate that. That's a you problem. Me being a CEO of my company, it is my job. My sole purpose is to put people in positions to win. If I don't put the systems and things in place for them to win, I'm failing them. That's the effort that I'm willing to put in whatever I'm doing in life. And that's where
Chris,
it goes back to.
I'm going to stop you again right there, because another big piece of information that cannot be overlooked, and you just shared it. If we don't have the mission right, and this is for everyone, if we don't have the mission right in our business, if we haven't created the right systems, the right processes, if we're not creating a platform for others to be successful, and that's on us.
Yes.
Right. That's on us. If I'm the owner of the company, if I'm the CEO of the company, that's on me. That's ownership. So keep going.
And a lot of people, it doesn't matter like what type of business or is a corporate, it doesn't matter what you do. If they don't know the CEO's mission statement, like what was his thought or her thought of when they wanted to build this business? What were their intentions? They always say lead with the outcome, right? Like what is the outcome that you're searching for? Well, there's a lot of small little tasks and things that need to be done, because those are the non-negotiables. There's a lot of non-negotiables in my life, especially when it comes to business. And one non-negotiable is this: no one's ever going to approach me with a problem without a proposed solution. I'm creating entrepreneurs. That's my job. Every person that signs on and becomes part of that mission, I look at them as a lifelong like relationship and a lifelong friend, whatever they need from me. But I'm going to say, okay, listen, why are you here? Why are you here? Why did you sign up for this? What do you want to accomplish? How? Okay, great. What do you really want to accomplish in your life? Are you using this as a stepping stone to get you to where you want to go? Or are you just using this as a job? If you treat this like a job, I don't need your services. I want you to treat this like it's your business and be a part of that. One heartbeat, one mission, one outcome. If you communicate that properly, say, if you're able to over exceed your expectations, this is one of the things that my directors do, and everybody that is a appointed person, a leader. Difference between a manager and leader, right? Here's a leader. Leader goes to their staff and knows what their pros and cons and what the things that are good at, the things that are not. You can't have Michael Jordan playing center. He's gonna get tore up. You have to know your talent, right? And knowing how to execute on certain things. You can't have a wartime general and put him where everything is all happy. He's going to create chaos. You know what I mean? Because he's a wartime general. So here's the process. You have to communicate. So Jay, when you signed on to do this, and here's your expectations, here's what I'm requiring you to accomplish. This is what I need you to do. You're like, okay, great. I can exceed those quotas and exceed those. Okay, great. If you're able to get to this level, the extra 1%, if you're able to achieve this, I'm going to give you 2 hours of my time on a Friday, and you pick the time to work on anything you want to work on. Not business, whatever you want to do in life. That's how you're recreating and you're developing your own leaders all the way down to the bottom. You're creating leaders, industry leaders, not just leaders of the team, industry leaders. I've produced more successful entrepreneurs during my journey in the last probably 6 years. They have their own businesses. They're doing extremely well. But guess what, Jay? They're still attached to me in some way because they look at me as a friend.
I believe it. Friend, mentor, coach, you whatever you want to call it. When you have someone like you in your life, it's, remarkable things begin to happen. And it's funny, as you were talking about leadership and coaching and developing other leaders, which is the role of a
Mm-hmm.
leader, it reminded me of a discussion that I had earlier this week. There's a book study group that I'm involved in with other business leaders and some ex-military guys. And, we talk through, like right now we're working on a particular book. It was the Dichotomy of Leadership by Jocko Willink
Oh, great!
and Leif Bavin. Great
Love
book.
everything loves everything he's put out.
Incredible. And this book came after his first book, Extreme Ownership.
Mm-hmm.
But what I value about this is having it's not reading page by page, it's actually distilling and discussing, and how do you apply that in life and business, right? And then challenging our own beliefs, and then asking ourselves much better questions. So as you were talking about that, it made me think about these kinds of discussions, and we should all be having these types of discussions.
Same training I went through in the military. Yeah. Same framework of the foundation and core values. It's really, leadership is easy, but it takes ownership. Everyone needs to be bought in. I'm talking about bought. Here's the difference between military and guys, or maybe cops, people that are on front line and serving their countries and whatever in their communities. Okay. There's days they wake up, they don't know they're going to come back home. The people the reason why the military trains until their eyes bleed, because they're making that deep in their subconscious of what they have to do to execute to win that day. If they're not able to execute and are not prepared for that, that's on the leader. So these are the questions that I ask my staff. What's the plan today? What's your job? And if they're not able to spit it out like that quick, we're not doing it today. There's obviously some training, some things that we need to do, and I'm going to get with your manager and get with your director today, and they will roll it out with you. But you're not touching my phone. You're not touching my phone. That's a phone. But on the other end of that phone is a human being with real human problems. Are you there to serve them or sell them?
Great question. Chris, I just, I love this conversation. This is one of those where you and I could talk for hours on this, and there's so much meaning that comes out of it. I want to talk about the win-win effect, and the work that you do with executives, and talk to us about the win-win effect, what that means to you, and how you're able to create remarkable sales results with sales teams and just better experiences.
Great question. I don't think anyone's ever asked me that question in that type of way. And I get interviewed a lot, and I do appreciate the question. The win-win effect means to me it's a human-based code for human interaction and collaboration in business. And that's what it's like, breaking the code with people. And it all comes back to ownership. You have to take ownership within yourself of what you can control. I don't like focusing on things that I can't control. I can't control that. I don't focus on it that much. But what I'll do is I'll build things in place to get around those moving parts that I can't control. So, and I'll peel it back in a little bit more for people to really understand. When I say the win-win effect, people think, oh, that sounds really fun, or that sounds really like it's catchy. I live and die by that methodology. Are they going to win? The person you're communicating with, are you suggesting and ranking a recommendation that's going to serve them short-term and long-term? If it's not going to happen, and if it's a no, and you have a little bit of doubt, then you might need to ask a little bit more diagnostic questions to get to the core and the root of the real problem. Most people, when they sign up for a program, or they sign up, depending on industry, they go to the store. You think they're going to the store? They physically walk into the store. Remember those days? When they walk into the store. Are they going to the store? And in the course of the salesperson goes, "Do you need help, Jay?" And what do you say, Jay? "I'm just looking."
I'm just looking. Yeah, I'm browsing.
Bullshit. You're not looking. You're not looking. You're in there you might not understand why you're there, but I'm going to make it a part of that process. Okay, so have you found what you're looking for? Ask the next question. Keep them talking. As long as you keep them talking and keep an interest, that's one thing that I teach with the win-win effect and making an impact. When you make a phone call or you're in a face-to-face interaction or whatever that might be, whatever the situation is for you, ask them questions to get them excited to hear their next question. Don't say, "Hey, my name is Steve. My name is blah, blah." I don't tell them my name right off the bat. "Oh yeah, by the way, my name's Chris." I'm like, "What are you doing here today?" I'm like, well, use what your God gifts are. Are you using your mind? That's something you can use. It's free. You can use your own mind. So from your experiences in life, it's commonality, rapport building. Or are you just having a conversation because you have to have a conversation because you punch a time clock? These are the things I know it sounds so simplistic, but it's that easy. Then you communicate that. Like, so what are you in this store for? Why are you here? Well, my wife is looking. Okay, we have a couch over here. Let's go talk on this couch. That's what men look for, right? Let's go talk on this couch. It's like, what do you have going on in your life? What are some things that excite you? What are you interested in? And of course, you can't just come out and just start asking a bunch of questions, can you? There's not enough. Like, who are you? Like, who's this weirdo? Make them feel like they're a part of the conversation. You're not talking at them. You're talking to them. And that's done by listening. And you're not listening for what they're going to say to you, because 99.9% of the time, they're not telling you the truth. They're not. Walk into the store. You start off lying to me. "I'm just looking." Okay? You're not looking. You're not even looking at things. You're just here. Are you present? Are you looking at your phone? Like, what are some things in your life that you would love to change and why? You see how easy I am just throwing questions out there?
Yes.
Is that going to lead me to knowing more information about them?
Absolutely. Keep peeling back.
Just keep asking questions. Like, so, I mean, and Dale Carnegie once said, and I don't know, his name is in a book. He's a pretty famous guy, right? So pretty profound information. Talks about how to make someone interested in you. You be interested in them.
Bam. Absolutely.
Pretty easy. I mean, just everything in life that you ever need is in books, right? Like, people much rather pick up a beer or an alcoholic beverage and then picking up a book. Do you know why? Because that book reminds them on how hard or how much more information they need to learn to be able to achieve their goals. It's a constant reminder they haven't put in the work. They pick up a beer because they're suppressing emotions or whatever they're doing, and I need to numb my life because I don't want to deal with this bullshit, right? Put in the work. There's two things that require, you can't buy the store. You can't purchase this stuff. It comes from you internally. Effort and attitude. You put in the effort, and that attitude of how you feel about certain things, that's where your ego is. My ego, and you mentioned this at the beginning of the recording and beginning of this episode, one of my major issues and one of the things that actually was helping me at certain times was my ego. But that ego can be a detriment at some point. I learned how to keep that ego busy. That's the part of your brain that doesn't understand information. It's fight or flight. Okay. For people that don't understand this and give them more context behind it, that's the part of your brain is kind of figuring out what's happening and judging a room, but it doesn't have the intellect to understand and reading certain parts of the conversation or interaction. Then you go, okay, everything's fine. You ever been in a situation where you're like, I thought everything was cool, and you get blindsided by something?
Oh, of course.
Because you didn't really fully understand what the room was about and what was going on. And that's about being exposed and experience. I would much rather have someone that has a lot of life experience rather than book, like, as in knowledge. Life experience is important. My grandfather used to always say that you have street smarts and book smarts. You need to have both.
True.
I could teach you the street stuff, but you need to have book smarts. Now, I couldn't understand it then because I couldn't read that well. I couldn't, like me reading information, I had to read it out loud. I sound like I was illiterate, but I was undiagnosed because that was a limiting belief, and that was projected onto me as well because I was the first child that wasn't born handicapped. You see what I'm saying, in the family? So my mom and dad, he can walk, he can talk, he can run, he can do this. He's a good kid. He's a happy kid. Nothing's wrong with him. See my point?
Oh, I definitely see your point.
So I was hiding, and I just thought I was stupid. I thought I was stupid. Like, how can I not read, that well and understand? So when I read information, I'm writing out. And then you talked about, and I love this about your book. I don't want to call it a book club. Is it a book club or book
study? Book study.
Book study. Okay. Because book club sounds like I'm going to read Yaya Sisterhood or something.
Right.
But
not that.
Right. When I would read information and take in information, I need to figure out how I can implement that information and if it fits.
Exactly.
Because your subconscious is powerful. It's powerful. There's going to be a moment in time you're going to need a certain piece of information to get you wherever you got to go. And sometimes it might be for survival. And your mind is very powerful, and you'll pull that from your subconscious.
It's like you're just continuing to file information away.
100%.
That information will become available to you at the right time, the right circumstances, but it has to be there, right? And
perfect example in this. And I want to make sure that I'm not to cut you off. Sorry.
No, please.
At nighttime. So here's how the human brain works when it goes in parts of your day. Okay. At nighttime, you're talking about filing information. Mm-hmm. That's the part of your brain that's filing that information. So here's the problem with most people. They're suppressing their emotions. They're not aligned. They're not getting enough sleep. It's important for you to get enough sleep and whatever it's going to take for their workload in your mind. So you can call that part of your brain the librarian. So are you giving your librarian enough time to be able to accomplish and file your information? So that's at night. And that's why in neocortex, that's how everything slows down for you and you go unconscious because you need to give yourself enough time. When you wake up, you don't know that information's there. So when people, they lack of sleep or they're drinking at night or doing, that's the reason why I'm talking about this right now, because I'm in contact with certain people that in 2020, they've been forced to go back inside and deal with their own shit.
Right.
They don't have the right tools to deal with their own stuff. They're so confused. What happens when you're confused? Your fight or flight's going to go off. You don't want to have to deal with it. You want to turn that part of your brain off. So what do? You're using drugs, alcohol, or whatever you're doing to numb the pain and numbing the situation so you feel better about yourself because everybody wants to feel good.
Right.
Everybody wants to feel good. Look at dopamine. You're looking at your phone. You're getting a certain chemical in your brain that makes you excited to look at your phone again for the notification. Social media is killing our world, but if you're using it for the right reasons. When you say social media, I don't do that stuff. My team does, but I know how to utilize that tool and execute. That's what that is. So everything external, just think about that's a tool. So everything in life is a tool. You need to learn how to use the tool. And why are you using it? The same framework, Jay. I use the same way. Every way I go about doing things is the same way. How you go about doing things, it pretty much is a complete reflection on the choices and decisions you made in life. You might just have the wrong system. I know what system works best for me because I'm my own unique, special individual. I might be crazy sometimes. I've been called that before. But there's one thing you won't call me is broke. Promise you that. Because it just happens in life. What they pay us with, I don't value that much. Those are the things that I don't value as much as life. Money is just a byproduct of getting the things that I want out of life because there's enough of it. True story. That's what happened right now with this world. Wealth is changing hands right now. Have you put in the work? We're about to see who's put in the work in 2020 for the next 3 to 5 years.
That's true.
We'll see. Don't worry. We'll see. Results will prove it.
You mentioned about providing the tools. Mm-hmm. Such an important point. And when we have the right tool sets, when we know how to use those tools, where to use those tools, we can build anything. But
100%.
if we don't have the right tool to be able to build this, we're going to struggle through it. We may get there, but it's going to take exponentially longer to achieve that result, right?
Or
So,
you could be a MacGyver. I mean,
or you could be
it's
a MacGyver, right? And use
sometimes
yeah,
it has to
Lord
happen.
knows.
And
Yeah,
think about that just for overall for a second, just for your listeners as an entrepreneur.
sure.
They might not have the financial means to in the budget available to be able to outsource certain things and having the right systems in place because they can't afford it as of yet. That's the whole powerful word there. What they need to do in the meantime is figuring out what can they use and what can they do to control the narrative and the situation up to the point to where you're not losing money and your business isn't losing. Because every second it goes by, the world's evolving. It's changing. And that's the uncertain part. I love uncertainty because I don't want to know what's about to happen. And I love it, but I control that. And I trust in my own natural ability. And I trust that I'm putting enough effort into making an impact in the right way that it's going to keep coming back around me. I'm going to recreating my own future every day because I'm putting in the work and I want to do it for the right and the greater good of humanity, not in the greater good of Chris Ross or Winject Studios or all the other stuff that I've done. No, it's in a greater good of humans. Am I making an impact today? And I ask myself, these are the same stuff, man. It's very simple. My life is very simple. And I go, I don't know how he's doing it. Do you have a system? What's your system look like? And your system, if it's different and it works out for you and you're living a fulfilled life, then God bless you.
Absolutely.
God bless you.
But if you're not where you are, if you're not where you want to be, if you're looking for growth, if you're looking for change, if you're looking to improve your life's circumstance and be able to create more impact, be able to serve differently, show up differently to the world, you can do those things. The great thing about the experiences that we have as human beings is no matter where you came from, no matter what your circumstances were in the past, all of that can be changed. You can decide how you're going to respond, how you're going to react. That is within our control. There are many things that we don't control, but the things that we do are up here.
You got to gain more knowledge. You have to gain more knowledge and understanding. They're like, hey, yeah, I mean, there's three types of people in the world. My grandfather used to say this, my dad too. There's people that make things happen. There's people that wait for things to happen. And there's people sitting around wondering what the hell just happened. Be the first one.
There you go. There you go. Great advice. So I want to talk about Winject for a moment. So you are the founder of Winject Studios. What is that experience like today as you think about creating this Winject Studios, and it was an idea that came to you, and the way that it's coming together now and the people that you're surrounding yourself with? What does it describe that feeling for our listeners, if you will?
It feels good now. Back in just to kind of give everyone, I'm the founder and CEO of Winject Inc. Winject Studios. I'm one of the founders. Obviously, that's the engine is going to drive the community and obviously the engine of what we're going to be doing moving forward. Because Winject Inc. is a corporation. I have a lot of different types of departments. Like Winject Studios, I reached out to some of our friends and some people that Justin Shank is one of the top podcasters in the last 5 years. Beautiful person inside and out. Adam Shively is one of his proteges at one point, and he has his own successful business. I think he has 3 shows, 500 episodes deep. He's top ranked podcast. You got Brian Bogart. Brian Bogart's a dear personal friend of mine. I love this guy to death. He's one of my favorite humans, human behavior specialist. I'm not sure if a lot of people, for those who don't know much about him, that guy right there is just, he is very conscious of how he goes about making a collective impact. He's on a mission right now to make an impact in 1 billion lives, and he's going to accomplish that with what we have in place. When I reached out to these guys, these individuals, they have their own zone of genius that's going to assist me and equip me with the right foundation in place for me to stay flying planes, right? Like Adam's really good with systems and putting things together and making sure the community understands information. Bogart kind of explains my vision and my way I go about things, because I'm highly aggressive. Don't get it twisted. I'm highly aggressive when it comes to entrepreneurship. When people tell me no, I'm like, you're telling me no, not right now. Like, so what is that going to do? How can we get that to a maybe? Right? Or are you the person that can make a decision today? If you're not, point me in the right direction. Help me. That's at the very beginning of the phone call. I'll say, are you the person that can help me? And if you're not, put me on hold and transfer me to the person that can help me. It's pretty simple, right? So these guys are going to help me, and we're all going to help each other. And that's done by community first. Winject is a community. It's not a business. It's not a network yet. I'm going to, from the community and creating Raven fans and crazy community, and where everyone's going to help. There's no podcast communities out there. None. Don't worry. I've done my market research, looking at value propositions. They might say they're a network and a community, but they're really not. It's one thing I've always done is put myself in a position to ensure that everyone's going to win and everyone's going to eat. That's what a community is for me. So we brought on the first 50. You're one of the first 50 shows that we've handpicked and selected. The reason why we're only hand selecting and picking the first 50, we want to make sure everything is working up to our standards to ensure that we're really going to win. And like demographics, the very first part, there's different tiers of the Winject Studios community. There's different tiers. Why? Because there's different types of podcasters out there. Everyone doesn't need everything. That's the problem with people that are trying to build a program. They think they need to build it for everyone to come. Stop paying attention to movies, guys. This shit is not real life. You build and cultivate and I guess mold whatever they're going to need and why they're going to need it, and they'll always buy it for whatever price. Don't matter the price, because it's what it's worth for them. Like raising your prices. That's one thing that, like, I see a lot of this stuff right now with coaches and consultants. Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm charging this because everyone else is charging this. I always ask for the outrageous just to see what they'll do. Because I'm going to put you in a position you can't tell me no. Because I'm going to get them to that buying decision if I go through the whole process and say, Jay, here's where I'm not understanding. If you can assist me with, just from my own sanity, if you can, do you have about 5 more minutes? And then I'm going to paraphrase. I'm going to insert their story. So you mean to tell me this? You mean to tell me this? You mean to tell me this? And you're willing to actually sit there and tell me and actually get away with, you think I'm going to take this from you as an answer. You're going to tell me you don't need this yet. I'm telling you every reason why you need to do this right now. It's life. I make it life or death for people. How I go about doing that is I have a certain way that I frame my questions to get to the core and the root of what's going to drive them. And then I'm going to exploit those things and do it in a right way and morally and ethically. They go, I've met people that are like, I didn't even know that was the damn problem. Right? I didn't even know this is the problem. Here's the problem with podcasters right now. They're getting on because everyone thinks they know. Everyone thinks that they're going to download their stuff and everyone wants to hear you. Nope. What's your mission? Are you purpose driven? Are you just posting your episodes and you're just hoping to God someone just happens to go to Apple to download that damn thing? Do you have the right guests? Are you interviewing guests? Are you shutting up enough and let your guests speak? Well, I see that a lot with podcast hosts. They have no direction. One of the best feelings I get to experience from my guests that come on the show, no one's ever asked me that question, Chris. I had an amazing time. Like, oh my God, I'm creating such an experience for people when they come on. They're a lifelong friend. And I do that in everything I do in life. So Winject is all about developing a community and making collective impact. That's what we're there to do. If you want to join, great. It's free. We're always and forever going to have a free option because it's free. It's me. I built it. That means if I was around building it, I'm always going to have a free option for someone that doesn't have a dime in their pocket, because I'm going to give them something else in return. What can you do? Like, what can you do to get to this next level? I don't have the financial means. So, all right, I'll give you some tools to be able to get those financial means. So when you are ready to move forward, you're going to what? You'll take action then, right?
Absolutely.
That's the objection, is money. Money and time is always the two biggest objections. Okay, so time, just for a second. People go, I don't have enough time. I love when people tell me this. So walk me through your normal business day, or not walk me through your day. Oh, I get up at 9, right? I get up at 9, like, what are you doing at nighttime for get up at 9? I'm watching Netflix. I'm chilling.
Smoking a few cigarettes during the day.
Whatever you do, man. Like, I don't care. Like, just the one thing that people weren't going to come to me for, and they're probably listening to this now, don't come to me and don't try to insult my intelligence and say things to me that for sure it's untrue. Because I'm going to give it to you real. If you ask me a question, I'm going to tell you an answer. And of course, I'm not going to sugarcoat things, because people have been sugarcoating things your whole life, probably in your life. They've been telling you what you wanted to hear. Well, I'm going to tell you what you need to hear and why. Insert attitude, insert personality. Of course, you don't want to offend people. I'm not egotistical, because there's 3 conversations you have going on every time you're interacting with someone. You have a point of view conversation from whomever's point of view. You have your emotional conversation. You hear people say, oh, you're caught up in your emotions. Or you have an egotistical conversation. Knowing how to identify what part of the conversation you're in and where they're at and their standpoints and where their viewpoints are, then you have to develop enough emotional intelligence to be able to execute.
So good. So much great information here. Well, what's super exciting about what's being built is the purpose-driven side of this, and building community around it, and surrounding yourself with others that are heart-led, that are looking to make an impact, and realizing that everyone's voice matters. And so how do we help those individuals amplify that message and get out in front of more ears?
Right. It's all about giving them more exposure. Anyone can put a microphone in their face, anyone, and start talking. But if you're saying the right things, are you plugged into the right source to amplify your message? What I'm going to do for people, and what we're going to do as a community, togetherness, it's all about that, is taking your plug from your microphone, whatever you're plugged and you're not plugged in it, I'm going to plug you into the right people and the right network. That's why the community is a vital piece. If I don't have a raving fans and raving community, and they're feeling like they have input, everyone has input. Everyone. I haven't learned everything I need to learn. Does that make sense? Like, you have 30 years of experience in certain, you know what I mean? Especially when it comes to business. There's things that you've experienced, Jay, that I have not yet to experience. That's how I look at people. I look at life. You have something you can learn today. Did you didn't learn anything? You might as well just jump out of a window.
Yeah.
You didn't learn anything today. You went through a whole day, 24 hours. You get the same 24 hours, and the most successful Elon Musk does in his day. What do you think he does in his day? It's not that difficult to understand success. Success is a formula, and it's a mathematical problem.
It is. And the more I'm around people like you, the more questions I'm asking of myself, the more I learn, the more I realize what I don't know. But I love that, right? I love that, because
that's good, because you love the process. That's the whole missing ingredient.
Absolutely. But the moment we think we know something, we shut ourselves off to that learning, right? Because
there's your ego.
Believe there's your ego, right? So we believe that, oh, I already know everything there is to know about X. And then when I go to have a conversation with someone about X and they're trying to share some knowledge, I'm already blocking myself off. I'm not willing to accept it.
You're not open to any suggestions.
Exactly.
I could be Mark Cuban talking about how great he is. I mean, I learned a lot about like watching like Shark Tank. Is anyone ever? I'm sure that show has been around for like what 20 something seasons. I all I consume is like business stuff, life stuff, but it doesn't. You don't know the difference, right? Watch how they go about handling business. Look at the most successful people in the world. I'm not talking about the ones that you see on social media successful. I'm talking about the top 1% of the 1% that you don't know who's pulling strings. If you follow the money, you'll find the answers. Always follow the money. Not follow the money and chase money. You'll get to that. But follow what they do. Start mirroring and matching. Start modeling what they do. Can it work out for you? Is it going to serve you? Is it going to serve your audience? Is it going to serve you short-term, long-term? Do you compromise your quality of life trying to get to the outcome that you're trying to get to in business? If you do, you're going to be an Anthony Bourdain. He was a beautiful person inside and out. Yes, would everyone agree? A beautiful guest come on his show. He's eating luxurious meals with the most astounding people in the world, and he killed himself in France. Because what he was doing, what he was suffering from, is dealing with his own emotions, and he was suppressing everything. He was giving off an illusion that everything was okay.
Self-awearness.
Yep.
Perspective.
Everything comes back from yourself. You.
It does. Well, Chris, we're going to have to schedule round 2 because there are so many other areas,
Anytime,
my friend, that I would love to go deep on with you. So I do want to ask you though. So before I ask my final question, share with us where we can connect. Mm-hmm. That would be one thing. And then also share with our audience a message that you would like to leave them with.
It's great. I like how you frame that. How you guys can find me is chrisrossofficial.com. That's my home. That's my hub. I can give you all the other stuff that we do, but I try to drive people just to winject.com, WINJECT.com. I'm sure you'll put that in the show notes somewhere. And obviously, your host with the most is right here. He's part of the community and part of the network as well. So I'm pretty sure he'll point you in the right direction. And getting to the win-win effect. That's my show. It's something that I'm extremely passionate about. That's where Winject come from, win-win effect. And then now what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to inject a winning mentality into everything that I come in contact with. And that's what we're all about. It's one heartbeat, one mission, one outcome. And that's what it's all going. And that's the end point that I can leave that message. It's like, are you spending enough time in your own thoughts? And if you are spending enough time in your own thoughts, what are you doing with them? You can use them to do some amazing things in life, but you have to be able to take action. And it sounds easy, but if you start aligning things, piece of paper and a pen helps me. When I'm writing out, I'm brain dumping and I'm putting things in my perspective, and in that way I'm able to see in a bird's eye view. So here's the thing about thoughts, and I'll leave this with everybody. When you have these thoughts in your mind, you can't control those. But what can you choose to do? You can direct those to a positive outlet. I don't entertain negative. I turn negative into positive. And how I go about doing that is I frame what the situation is so I can understand completely. If I'm not able to understand this completely, then I'm going to reach out to my community and we're all going to work together as one and be like, here's my major problem. Can this problem help me though? And that's all about figuring out your own inner true gifts. My gifts is being able to, pretty much figure anything out by outsourcing, right? That's my gift. It's like, okay, I'm going to keep asking questions until I understand really the problem. Then I'm able to put myself in that situation and what would I do? Here's how I would go about doing this. And then that's a success formula for me. And it's enough for me. Because I'm playing an infinite game called business. I'm not playing a finite game. Most people are playing a finite game. They're just trying to win a campaign or trying to win their month or keeping their lights on. I'm playing an infinite game called business and life. As long as I have the resources available, I'm going to win. I'm going to win. And if I'm not winning that day, I'm learning how to win. Because it's one thing I'm not going to do is give up on myself. And that's called quitting or losing in my situation. That's how I identify quitting and losing. Because you quit on yourself, you lose. And that's not going to happen.
Wow. Amazing. My friend, that's just incredible. So much valuable information shared here today. So here is my final question to you. What is one of the biggest gifts that life has given you that you did not realize at the time?
I have to go all the way back to my older sister passed away. When she passed away, not just me learning and developing a more emotional intelligence, when she passed away, it was a gift because I don't think I would ever have left Charleston, South Carolina if she was still alive. So when she passed away, I was kind of like, it hurt and it was pain, but then I was running away from that. I don't think I would ever have left Charleston and went to the military because I needed something like that to, I guess, put me in a position where I didn't know what to do. And that's probably the biggest gift that I ever received that I didn't know was a gift at that time. But that's the whole thing about life and success, in my opinion. Sometimes the things that you accomplish and it means the most to you don't come from your best memories in life. It comes from the darkest time in your life. And that's where winning is done. That's where winning is done. It's done when the lights are off and no one's watching you. No one's watching you. And you owe it to yourself to do something with it. You owe it to yourself, not just to everybody else around you, maybe is counting on you. You owe it to yourself to become the best version of yourself. You have no regrets. One of the best things I ever done for myself is I got the chance to interview, went to a retirement home. This is before COVID. It's not going to happen right now, right? But you go up there, they're just people. Some people in retirement homes, their family just puts them in there and they're just there to die. They're waiting to die. That's how they feel. You know how I know that? Because I went there and I interviewed them. When I was asking these questions, I was studying my project at the time. I was studying just for my own self, was regret. So I was asking a lot of questions. And that's the one thing that you can see that behind their eyes, Jay. It's like, I should have asked the girl of my dreams out. I should have started that business. Should have did this. I should have did that. That should have. And it coulda, woulda, right? Mm-hmm. But I'm not going to die. I'm going to die on E. If God willing, if he allows me to be able to manifest that in my life and be able to accomplish those, I'm going to die on E because I'm willing to make sure that I'm putting in that sacrifice. My whole life has been sacrifice. Like my family back home in Charleston, when they look at me, they should see them. It's a shared legacy. Every person I've ever been in contact with in business, you included, you're part of the Winject community and a part of the win-win effect journey. You're just as much part of my success that I'm part of yours or whatever. That's how I look at life. When you may adopt that way of thinking, anything is possible. Anything.
Beautiful. Fantastic. Well, there are very few times, Chris, when I'm speechless and when so much wisdom is coming at you and you're willing to accept it and take it in, and it hits you right at your heart, right at your soul, which is exactly what has happened during this conversation. All I can say is thank you. I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for you showing up and sharing and being who you are and not trying to show up in any other way other than showing your greatness. So thank you for being here.
You're welcome. And I know that sometimes words can't really fully describe the feelings or what you're trying to communicate at times. You know what I mean? And I'm very conscious of that, but it's the way that you make me feel, the way you were saying it. And I know it comes from the most like a genuine part of your soul. You know what I mean? So I received that, and thank you for the opportunity to serve your audience in whatever form or fashion. This goes out to the listeners, and I hope that you guys that have enjoyed some of this conversation and and I'm not all, I guess, aggressive, and I'm very conscious of how I make people feel. And sometimes it's not a good feeling when you have to look back at yourself and you realize, like, shit, I should have did this in my life, or I should have done this in my life. And this guy's just yelling at me. It's easy for him to say. I hear this a lot. Just take some accountability for your life. Take some accountability. I appreciate you, the kind words, Jay. I appreciate our friendship. I appreciate the future conversations we'll have. I just, thank you again for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. My pleasure. And for all of you, thank you so very much for watching and listening. And, please take a moment to subscribe and let Chris and I know what you think of this episode. That feedback is important, and we would appreciate it. To enjoy more episodes and to learn how Jay Shear Business Consulting can help build a solid foundation for your service-based business, just visit jshearbusinessconsulting.com. And until next time, keep learning and growing, and we'll see you on the next Business Minds Coffee Chat. Take care.